Story number 2. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet reportedly won't make 2026. Is from Wesley Yin-Pool over at IGN. With the wait for The Witcher 4 set to head into 2027, it's a similar story for Naughty Dog's recently announced Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. I always mix, whatever. Heretic Prophet.
Hereditary?
Yeah, Hereditary. And
I always want to say Heretic Project.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
See, I always say Intergalactic because of Kid Cudi. It's messed me up every single time.
Yeah, I don't like it. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier took to Reset Era to say neither The Witcher 4 nor Intergalactic will be out next year. That means, like The Witcher 4, Intergalactic will be released in 2027 at the earliest. And like The Witcher 4, Intergalactic will face questions around whether or not it's targeting the PlayStation 5 or the inevitable PlayStation 6, or perhaps, most likely, is a cross-gen game. If Intergalactic heads straight to PS6, Naughty Dog faces the prospect of having skipped the PS5 generation in terms of brand new games. That is a crazy thought to think about. That's me saying that, not the reporter. So far, the studio has released ports, remasters, and remakes on Sony's current-gen console, including The Last of Us Part 2, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, The Last of Us Part 1, and The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Assuming Intergalactic releases in 2027 and taking into account Druckmann's comments about it being in development for 4 years so far, by the time the game comes out, it will have been in the works for 6 years. Yeah, that makes sense. Like none of this surprised me. Does it surprise you at all?
No, I think I was a little bit hoping for 2026, but I think when they first announced it, immediately I'm like, oh, it's gonna be quite a few years before we see that thing.
Yeah,
I think that's just the base assumption you had to make whenever a game of this nature is being revealed. Like, I would think the same thing if it was like a Sony Santa Monica game or any of like those top tier, like, oh man, I've been waiting a while for this studio to reveal their game.
Yeah,
I always bump up a few years from the announcement of when we're actually going to get that. So 2027 doesn't sound crazy to me. I do think that the crazy part of it is the fact that, yeah, are you then talking about cross-gen? Are we talking about an entire generation maybe not getting a Naughty Dog game?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that's where it gets into, oh man. I think no matter what though, I think once this game comes out, I'd imagine that it's coming out on PS5 either way.
Oh yeah,
unless
absolutely.
we get into like heavy delay territory.
Yeah,
unless we get into like Last Guardian territory.
But even then,
like
we forget that Ragnarok came out on PS4.
Yeah, that's
right?
a good point. That's a really good point.
We're gonna get it on both. I think this is gonna be a Last of Us 2 situation, right, where it just comes out on the, I guess, last generation hardware by that time, right? PS5, and then eventually comes to PS6 in a remastered form or an update or something like that, right? Yeah, this doesn't surprise me. Again, I'm with you. I wanted the reveal of like, oh shit, like maybe they were cooking so hard that this is ready to go like ASAP, but this is not surprising, and I'm excited to see whatever they do next. I'm not like freaking out or like, oh my gosh, they haven't released the game in so long, because it has been so many remasters and, you know, re-releases of the same games. And I just replayed Uncharted 4, and that game is fucking incredible. So like, yeah. I'm fine with Naughty Dog taking as much time as possible. But yeah, it just speaks to how long these cycles of development are going, and we are going to get to the point where maybe the next, Naughty Dog game doesn't make an entire generation of consoles. Like, we're going to get to that point where one of these studios just misses an entire generation, because that's how long these games are taking.
Unless there is that shift of, hey, we are scaling down a bit. Like in
the video game industry?
Yeah, that's the tough thing is, we were having, I think it was me and Tim that were having this conversation as far as the God of War Greek game that's rumored for later this year, and like, do you think it could be another third-person action adventure, or do you think it's going to be something way smaller, like a 2D thing, or like a
that'd be sick.
Or I started off saying a Facebook website game, or Facebook browser game, mainly because they've done that before. Like for God of War 2018, there was like a prequel Facebook browser game that led into it. And so like when I read a side story God of War thing, I'm like, all right,
no one said game.
No one said game. And then finally Jeff Grubb did confirm. He's like, oh, it's a game.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I was like, all right, what's the lowest tier that I could pitch where I'm like, I believe this?
Yeah.
That way, like when they do reveal it, I can be like, oh, that's wild that they're going to do this thing, right?
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Stash. Are you still putting off saving and investing because you'll get to it someday? Stash turns someday into today. Stash isn't just an investing app, it's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with dependable financial strategies to help you reach your goals faster. They'll provide you with personalized advice on what to invest in based on your goals, or if you want to just sit back and watch your money go to work, you can opt into their award-winning expert-managed portfolio that picks stocks for you. Stash has helped millions of Americans reach their financial goals and starts at just $3 per month. Don't let your savings sit around. Make it work harder for you. Go to get.stash.com/kindafunny to see how you can receive $25 towards your first stock purchase and to view important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/kindafunny. Paid non-client endorsement. Not representative of all clients and not a guarantee. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk and investments may lose value. Offer is subject to T&Cs.
But even in the conversation that you and Tim were having about that, it was the thing of, I think Tim also being of the mind of, hey, I think PlayStation and these big studios might have to scale down at some point, or might have to figure out how to put things out at a more decent pace and like figure out how to refine that, right? And I kind of go back and forth on it because I think there are some studios that, you know, can be the prestige. We're going to put out one game a generation, and it's going to be the game that is the critical darling, the game that is the flagship. This is the game of our generation kind of thing, versus an Insomniac or a Team Asobi.
Yeah.
Not to say that Spider-Man isn't going to be one of the games in generation, right? But like Spider-Man, you're at the very least, you're able to put out multiple of them in one console generation, along with a Ratchet, along with probably a Wolverine, right? Like Insomniac has a level of refinement that they have within their studio of, we know how to put out games. We know how to make things quick, and they don't need to be 11 out of 10 games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't need to be these 10 out of 10.
But I mean, they're extremely impressive.
Successes.
Yeah, they're extremely impressive. I think it speaks to going back to my conversation on Friday with Sam Lake and Mikal over at Remedy, talking about how they went from one project at a time to multiple projects now, right? And like that's a tough thing to do. And I know that Naughty Dog, they were working on one project for a while, and then they started doing multiple potentially. Like you got to scale those things up, right? You got to scale those things up in order to get to a point where you are Insomniac and you're making all of these. You have all these different teams working on all of this different stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's the dream. I don't think anything's gonna get smaller. And I look to, if I wanted the perfect world for a smaller type experience where you can continuously have that AAA, but then also have those smaller experiences, is what Ninja Gaiden's doing right now, which is kind of perfect, right? They have the Ninja Gaiden 2 Black remake that came out this year. They have Ragebound, which is a different studio that is making like a 2D smaller thing, and then they have Ninja Gaiden 4, right? Like that to me is like the perfect middle ground of all of this, right? You have a remake, you have a smaller game that's a side team, and then you have the AAA thing.
See,
I just don't think we're gonna get that for PlayStation. I don't think PlayStation wants that even. They don't want a smaller game.
I don't think they want that for a game like the games that Naughty Dog do, right?
Yeah.
Maybe an Uncharted. That's the thing is, I think when you give the Ninja Gaiden example, I think it's fascinating because you have something that is going to be a third-person action game, but then you have like a 2D thing, right?
Yes.
That is a different genre, that has a different pipeline, all that stuff. I mean, if you wanted to go that route, right, it would be, all right, we're going to make a less 2D survival thing.
Be sick, Metroidvania type deal,
Yeah, and like, but does that fit the IP?
It can be.
It could.
Yeah, but they want it to be. They want. I think the thing with PlayStation, that PlayStation wants all of their big IP like that to be synonymous with the AAA of it all, right? Like they don't want the smaller experiences. That's why I'm interested in this God of War thing, where it's like, is that a smaller experience in terms of like scope and scale, but it still has the same graphical fidelity, and it's just like it is like a Miles Morales type deal? Or is it like a fully like, hey, no, this is a different type of video game and we're trying something different? If I were a betting person, I would be like, this is a Miles Morales type thing, which is a smaller experience, but it still feels AAA because it is AAA.
I think God of War is one of those franchises that would fit if you wanted to do a 2D thing, if you wanted to do like a different genre thing, right?
Yeah.
I think when I'm looking at Naughty Dog, when I say scale back, right, I'm talking about the fact that Last of Us 2 was a 26 hour game. I'm like, what if your next big game was 13 hours?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm talking about as far as getting your games out the door a little bit quicker.
But then that's the thing, is that you kind of dig yourself in that hole a little bit, right? Where it's like people are expecting that longer experiences for $70,
but
right?
If as PlayStation you keep developing to people's expectations currently, like you're not going to be able to keep up with it.
I agree with
You've
you.
already
I
done
agree
too
with you.
much. You ruined from the years of 2016
I completely agree
to
with you.
2020. You ruined people.
Yeah.
You ballooned people's expectations to an unreasonable amount, and now like if you're not continuing to do that, yeah, people are going to get upset. But guess what? I think people will get over it because nobody. I don't think anybody's going to be able to sustain that if your name is not Rockstar. And Rockstar is putting out a game every 8 years or something like that. And so
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I know I think you kind of just have to figure out how to scale, or I guess scale to what you want it to be. Like Naughty Dog, I don't think Naughty Dog has to be the guys that put out a game every 3 or 4 years. As long as the one game you're putting out every 6 years is fucking a 10 out of 10, sells 30 million. Like as long as you're doing that, and then you have the other studios to help prop you up, and you have that synergistic. All right, we got Naughty Dog for the Prestige. We got Insomniac to help us make money or whatever, right? Like, or Team Asobi to help, sustain the library and all that stuff. I think you could have a relationship there between studios that works, but it does put Naughty Dog in a very lofty place.
Especially if one of those fails potentially.
Exactly.
Right?
If you miss, oh man, that's a problem.
That's a big one. Yeah, and then you have to lean on the other studios to prop you up, and then studios start shutting down.
Yeah.
And things start falling apart. Like you're totally right. I agree with you. I just don't know if that's what PlayStation wants right now. And I'm interested to see that side project because that side project, if that's real for God of War, I think is going to say a lot about the future of PlayStation. And if it is just another Miles Morales thing, then cool. Yeah, whatever. But if it's something radically different and smaller, we could be cooking. We could be cooking with different, and they might be listening to the critiques that we've had over the years of, hey, let's just make smaller games at a faster
2027. Pace. If we get Witcher 4 and Intergalactic out in the year 2027, what do you think ends up being game of the year between those two?
Witcher 4. Witcher 4 for sure.
I hope we see that. I hope we see both those games going on the same year.
Yeah.
Because I miss the years where it's like, oh fuck, I really don't know what.
Yeah.
This is
What
I
is
feel
it
like
gonna be?
years recently have been kind of either predictable or like there haven't been. I'll bring us back to 2013, where it was GTA 5
simpler time.
versus Last of Us. Much simpler time of like, all right, who you got? And we argued into the ground.
What type of guy are you?
Yeah, are you a GTA sicko or are you a Last of Us connoisseur?
Bring me back to God of War 2018 versus Red Dead 2.
Ooh.
Yeah,
that was a good year.
Ooh.
Elden Ring versus God of War, God of War Ragnarok. I think in theory it was one of those. Even though for me, I was so like, oh man, it's Elden Ring.
Yeah,
it's not even a question for me. But kind of funny game for Ragnarok. So.
Different types of games. I want a year where it's like two, not similar games, but two games that have like almost complete overlap. You know what I mean? Like Elden Ring and God of War don't really have as much overlap. You know what I mean? If you're an Elden Ring person, you're an Elden Ring person. If you're not, you're just not. So I want one. Yeah, I think Last of Us and GTA is kind of similar because people that play Last of Us totally will play GTA. People that play GTA probably play Last of Us.
Yeah.
So I don't know.